Hello, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Over Underdogs. It's week 5, and we're going to try to break up the monotony of this terrible first half in this game. My name is Vishaal Gupta. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Mason is actually at this game right now. I'm hoping he's having a lot more fun being there at the stadium than we are trying to watch this at home. It is brutal. But joining me today is Jason Draven at that FF Nerd and Chris Salazar at QB3QB3. Jason, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I started off with my show before this. I've just been rolling. I talked about a lot of the picks that I'm going to give you here, but definitely give you some more explanation and kind of even go further into depth with you guys. So I'm excited to be on this.
Very cool. Yeah, we're very happy to have you. And Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing solid. I almost caught a nap watching that game. I mean, that was just that was rough. I was hoping for
Yeah,
a little bit more from Russell Wilson, but
you cannot tell what was going on in that game. Both offenses are terrible. Hopefully, you guys took the under like we recommended in our Discord earlier today. That's seeming like the play. But let's go ahead and get started with our plays. I'm going to go ahead and have Jason start us off with what he likes for this slate of games. Jason, go ahead and get started.
Well, I think it's pretty basic here. I'm going higher for Nick Chubb. He's 89.5 is pretty low. I mean, the fact that this year he's only gone under that once. The Chargers defense against the run isn't great, so it's a pretty safe option for me to go the fact that Nick Chubb will go higher than that. And then we'll go into my next pitch. He's healthy, guys. Chris Godwin is back. You have to love this kid. He is the number one target getter on that team. Being healthy, being back, I expect him to easily go over that in this matchup that is just too juicy. And the fact that now we'll go into the last one. Again, we're going higher. I'm too high for this. Since this game's at mile high, I went high on all of these picks. Robert Woods is going to wrap it up. 52.5 receiving yards. Going higher because of the fact that, Treylon Burks is out with turf toe. He is going to be the number one in that offense as a wide receiver. And the Washington football team now Washington Commanders did it again. I was doing so good on this. You're not saying that. But Robert Woods, man, number one target. Great opportunity here. Going to see a lot of targets. Should easily go over 52.5.
Yeah, I like it. All of those picks make a lot of sense to me. Chris, why don't you go ahead and give us your slate for this week?
alrighty. So the first one, I got Elijah Moore. I'm also with Jason on these ones, going higher with all of them, but I have Elijah Moore going higher than 44.5 receiving yards. Xavier Howard is on the injury report, possibly won't even play this game. They're already missing Byron Jones, so that secondary will be depleted. Even if Xavier Howard was there, he is one of the highest snap getters in traveling with the receiver. So I don't think he would have covered him regardless. But Elijah Moore was already having some pretty good connections with Zach Wilson. So we'll see if that connection can go. I do believe that it will go. I have a lot of Elijah Moore shares in fantasy, so I'm actually hoping for that one as well. Chase Claypool as well. He hasn't had that good of a start to the season, so I think that this is a good game for him to get going. Over 32.5 receiving yards seems low. He is lining up in the slot more than anybody in the Steelers receiving corps. So he will have Taron Johnson in the slot, and he's been a below average corner in the slot this year. So I think Chase Claypool can feed on that. Plus, he has a quarterback who's new. So those new quarterbacks always like to look in the slot and for those tight ends. So look for Chase Claypool to go over that. And my last one, Joe Mixon, over 21.5 receiving yards. Last week, Devin Singletary himself had 47 receiving yards. And the Ravens this season have allowed more than 25 yards to running backs every game, including against the Jets when both Michael Carter and Breece Hall had over 25 receiving yards. So the Ravens are just not good at covering backs. I have Joe Mixon going over 21.5.
Yeah, I really like that pick.
Sorry.
No worries. I love that pick because I had Devin Singletary last week at higher than 13.5, and I gave the same exact reasoning. Every running back that the Ravens had played up into that point had gone higher than like 13, 15 yards. So it just seemed like a slam dunk. This one, they obviously moved it up to 21.5. I think they're starting to catch on. We'll see if Mixon can carry on. Before I get into my picks, I want to quickly do a rundown of our stats so far through 4 weeks. I am still in the lead, 9-3 on my picks through 4 weeks, and I actually hit all 3 picks last year, giving me the first winning card of the season for anybody on our show. I think it just barely scratched by with Jacoby Brissett going higher than 15.5 fantasy points. I think he barely got over. I think it went to like 16 points and got very lucky on that one. Um, but this is hard. It's not easy to get winning cards, and that's why Underdog has introduced an all-new feature to help ensure that you win called PickEm Insurance. PickEm Insurance is a great new way to hedge your entry. When you turn insurance on for a PickEm entry, your potential payouts will be reduced just a little bit, but if you miss one of your picks, you can still win money. And if you look at our wins with insurance column, we are doing quite well. A lot of us are going 2 out of 3 in our picks. So if you turn on PickEm Insurance, we're still going to be winning money. So it's a great feature that everybody should turn on. And then I will finish up with my slate for the week. I'm going to start off with Romeo Dobbs, higher than 44.5 receiving yards. He's gone over higher than this mark in each of his last 2 games, and he's gotten 8 targets in each of his last 2 games, which is either tied for the most or was the most amongst Packers receivers. He seems to be the guy right now that Aaron Rodgers loves to target. We know Samuel Watkins is out. We know Christian Watson has had his issues catching the ball. So it seems like it's Allen Lazard and Romeo Dobbs right now as his favorite targets. And 44.5 is just too low for a guy that Aaron Rodgers likes to throw the ball to against a pretty weak Giants defense, or at least in the secondary. So I definitely like higher than 44.5 there. Next up, David Njoku, higher than 7.75 fantasy points. In his last 3 games, he is averaging 7 targets, 5 catches, and 65 receiving yards. He's almost hitting this number with just his receiving yards alone. Add in half a point for every catch he gets. And then if he finds a way to get to the end zone, this one's just an absolute lock. So I really like higher than 7.75 fantasy points. He seems to be one of the favorites for Jacoby Brissett behind only Amari Cooper in the passing game. And finally, this one hurts me to do it, but I can't pass this one up. Kirk Cousins higher than 250.5 passing yards against my Bears. He should have no trouble picking apart the secondary this week. Jalen Johnson has still not practiced. He's missed the last 2 games for the Bears. And if he's out in this one, it's going to get bad very fast. Kyler Gordon, he's a rookie. He's going to take some time, but he is just not playing well at corner. He's getting beaten by every receiver he lines up against. And if he has to cover Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen or KJ Osborne, it's just not going to go well. Kirk Cousins will have plenty of chances to throw the ball deep and hit some big plays. So, it's going to hurt, but you can't pass this one up. Kirk Cousins has gone higher than this number in 3 out of his 4 games. So you just have to take higher than Kirk Cousins, 250.5 passing yards. We all took higher. Nobody went lower in this one. Nobody likes taking lowers. It's just not as much fun. So let's go around the room and tell everybody what our locks are. Chris, why don't you get started? Who is your lock this week out of your 3 picks?
It's going to have to be Joe Mixon going higher than 21.5. I really do like that one. I think it's time for Joe Mixon to have himself a good game this year. He's had a few solid games in terms of like fantasy points and whatnot, but he's been pretty less than average from what he was doing last year. So I think this is a really good game for Joe Mixon to get going, especially through the air. Those catches, especially in those PPR games, is going to be crazy. So Joe Mixon.
Very nice. Jason, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Robert Woods as my favorite option this week. Oh, going higher than 52.5 yards. It just seems too easy with Treylon Burks out and the poor secondary that he's going against. It seems like just way too easy of a pick for me. Seems like an easy lock.
Yep. And our guy Steve jumping in, throwing some shade on the Colts and Thursday Night Football. What's the easier bet? Under on the Colts or under on the Thursday Night Football point total? Honestly, you can't go wrong either way, right? We always seen from the Colts in 4 weeks and Thursday Night Football. They've just not been good.
Yeah, the Broncos also just look completely lost in this game. I don't understand what's going on in that offense.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, I will finish up by locking up Romeo Dobbs higher than 44.5 receiving yards. Again, for somebody who's either Rodgers' first or second favorite target, that should be pretty simple. This game is in London. Maybe there's some jet lag, blah, blah, blah. They're playing the Giants secondary. Can you guys name more than 2 players on that Giants secondary? I can't. Nope. So I'm going to go ahead and lock up Dobbs higher than 44.5. 1.5
Julian
receiving
Love.
yards. That will do it for us tonight. Sorry that we've sent everybody back to watch the second half of this brutal game. But if you can make it through that, join us tomorrow night for Locked In. We'll be running through a bunch of the games tomorrow, talking about our favorite picks for the weekend. And hopefully it'll be a lot more fun talking about those upcoming games than having to talk about Thursday Night Football. But yeah, that will do it for us. Hopefully everybody had a good time, and we will catch you later.